The teams that improved the most is obviously Origin. They weren't looking really strong in the split. They're actually looking like the best team in Europe.
Very, very impressive performance out from Niels. He actually had a KDA of 32. That's the highest KDA in LCS regular split history.
I think H2K plays so flawless. They all know what to do. They're all on the same page.
Yarnan dealt 45% of his team's damage. 0 deaths. He was never, ever caught out.
13, 0, and 12. An astounding performance.
I think their playstyle is really solid. Like, they're really good at what they do as a team.
All you need to give Huni is 1 kill and he starts rolling in. Fantastic performance so far in this split. And yeah, who's gonna stop Huni?
There's nothing that this guy cannot do.
Welcome to the European League Championship Series, broadcasting to you live from our studio in Berlin, Germany. The pressure is on as we near the midpoint of the summer split. As you can see, the crowd is rowdy and ready to go for 5 matches we have on the schedule here today. The place is packed as people were coming in a little bit earlier, waiting to take their seats for all of the action today. Very excited. Well, it's a bit chilly outside today, so good on them for waiting outside. An excited Fnatic fan. And there's ROC lounging a bit in our chic outdoor area with Yamato giving the last of his hints to his team, and their SK Gaming setting up on stage, looking for that second win now that they finally have their hands on their very first win yesterday. I'm Evie Supporter here at the analyst desk to break down all of today's games with the help of Lauri Cyanide Happenen, Martin the Fish Show Lunge, and Trevor Quickshot Henry. Welcome once again, guys. Well, before we get any further, let's look at where the teams stand after yesterday's games, and we gotta zoom in on that top 3. Fnatic, they are still alone in first place, 7-0. Origin no longer undefeated since last week, and now another loss, versus Fnatic in 3rd place, and H2K in 2nd. And I think it's very, very interesting the way the standings are evolving there at the top of the tables. Trevor, you said yesterday you think that H2K might be the team with the best macro level execution that we have in the league, and honestly, we haven't seen OG tested in those waters yet.
No, we haven't really. Let's start with Origin. I think yesterday their loss to Fnatic highlighted a few maybe pick and ban mistakes, maybe some player mistakes. Their loss last week to ROC also showed that they have troubles when they fall behind. And I think for Origin, let's also remember, this is their first time in the LCS as this 5-man team. Yes, 4 of the players have got a wealth of experience, but they still have to fix those problems on stage. And then going to H2K, I do think they're the best macro team in Europe at the moment. When they get a lead, they push it, they're aggressive, they're intelligent. They have very few weaknesses, and I definitely think H2K, when they start looking forward, Fnatic is going to be the next target on their hit list.
Yeah, I agree. H2K look fantastic, but there is one clear weakness we have seen whenever they face some of the other top teams, and that's in the early game. Because like the laning phase is not where H2K are winning the games. It's where they tend to honestly fall a little bit too far behind when they face someone like Fnatic. If it still happens,
however,
or if it happens next time.
One time, the only reason, yes, they lost Origin that way, but their average gold lead at 10 minutes is actually the best in the league.
So
you just don't feel it.
That's true. That's true. But again, right now, I'm just looking at H2K and Fnatic. That's it. I'm just saying H2K versus Fnatic. I think Fnatic can beat them in the early game, and that means H2K won't get to play the style they love to play. The rest of the teams, no problem for H2K.
Yeah, I think the problem that Origin has is that they had the most flawed playstyle in a way that they just go full ham and try to kill everyone, and sometimes it backfires because they play so damn aggressive. So actually, out of these 3 teams, I see Origin the one that might drop games against the bottom teams.
All right, there we go. Well, when it comes to Fnatic and H2K, we have a big test for them next week. Of course, our game of the week will be when Fnatic plays H2K, so we'll know a bit more about how the standings will evolve after that one. But of course, we do have a bunch of games to play today. First, we're going to kick off in a few minutes with SK versus ROC. We got Fnatic going on versus the Copenhagen Wolves, and Gambit versus Unicorns of Love. A very interesting matchup there. Gambit, 3 straight wins so far. They are 3-3. Unicorns of Love, on the other hand, also 3-3, but not looking as good.
Yeah, it's a reversal of fortunes. You know, Unicorns will have picked up a couple of wins, but now they're in that 3-game losing streak. Gambit started losing, now they're on a winning streak, and we need to see who's actually going to stabilize their performances. I think Gambit are probably the favorites coming into that matchup, but I'm definitely looking forward to watching it.
I mean, just look at Gambit yesterday. That was the first time this split, at least, we got to see a Gambit that was in control. You know, apart from one mistake in a bottom lane that resulted in 2 kills, Giants couldn't do anything. Like Kaposhak got super fed, Forgiven sat back and farmed, and we got to see what Gambit wants to do and how it's not about Forgiven being the main carry. There's other members on this team here. If they can continue playing like this, Gambit will go towards the top.
Yeah, I think the problem that Gambit is going to face against UL is, though, that they relied on Kaposhak to carry really heavily in some of their wins, and I think Chachi is a really good top laner, so I don't think Chachi is going to lose one-on-one top lane like Welb did, yeah.
Werlip, yeah, we'll see what moves Chachi brings out there. We also saw some big moves yesterday and our share of LCS big plays. Here's a tweet from @DelusionalZen, tweeted, Kasing channels mad life with that hook. Why do people keep letting him have Thresh?
Oh, hang on.
He's with an early flash. The death sentence connects. Kasing Kaching.
Fantastic hook by Kasing. Predicts their flash almost, because I think he started casting that hook right as the flash came out. Beautiful follow-up.
Yeah, that looked like one of my Thresh solo queue games, actually.
Yeah, I believe it. Now remember to wow, it was like...
You know what, that's fair. I think that deserves a round of applause.
It does. There are actually people here. This is not like a tape or anything. That actually happened. Remember to share your show-stopping moments throughout the day by tweeting @LL Esports and using the hashtag LCSBigPlays. Now, speaking of Twitter, we're opening our guest up to you for another day of inquiries. Tweet @LL Esports with the hashtag AskCyanide, and we'll pose your questions to the former LCS jungler later today. Areas of expertise, jungling outside of the LCS, Finland, and biology. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, so fire all your shots and tweet @LL Esports, hashtag AskCyanide. We're going to bring it back, though, and look at our very first matchup of the day between SK Gaming and ROC. Starting off on the blue side with SK Gaming's lineup, Freddy122, Sven Skaren, Fox, Candy Panda, and Rated, and their coach, Lukas Schenke. Well, SK, they're on the board. They got their very first win, but it took a lot.
It took a lot. I mean, Unicorns will love that game. It was very back and forth. We see basically what won SK the game. Freddy and Svensken here in the late game team fights on both Gnar and then Echo. Of course, being very tanky, but also being the carries for SK. And it says a lot about what these two guys can do. I mean, just look at the amount of damage Freddy dealt. Of course, it was Frozen Mallet, Black Cleaver, Hexstring. It's a bit of a DPS Gnar. Not a full Wicked style, though, with the Hurricane. Maybe that comes today.
Yeah, definitely the case. And I think for SK, they broke their losing streak. We heard Candy Panda talking about that and how important it was. And I also think for Sven Skaren, his 7th champion in 7 games, he had a very, very good impact in the early game. Found first blood, was stealing jungle camps, high kill participation. That's the first time this split Sven has looked like the Sven that was at Worlds, the Sven that was performing so well in the spring split.
Yeah, I think one of the problems they had in that game as well, they were using Caitlyn kind of like a Vayne. Like, he was just split pushing instead of grouping early mid-game, where it's actually Caitlyn can be useful at pushing those turrets. Although he did a really good job of baiting the enemy team later on in the game.
I think we still saw some mistakes, obviously, from SK and also from Unicorns of Love, which is what we see quite often now, at least at the moment for them. They're not really performing too well. So I think SK can just look at this game and say, hey, it wasn't pretty, but we managed to win. We broke our losing streak. I mean, I've been 0-9, you've been, what, 0-7, or at least lost 7 games in a row. So getting that first win, you know, it means a lot because you get some sort of confirmation that you're not complete trash at least. And that's what you need as a team when you're losing so much.
I don't think you could compare the Fnatic losing streak.
Hey, 7 games in a row, 9 games in a row. It's the same.
I don't recall a losing streak ever
It's the same.
No, never happened. Moving on, we're gonna go across the other side of the rift. There is ROC, SK's opponent in this one, with Steve, Jankos, Nukduk, Vander, and their new AD carry, Mr. Rawls, and of course their coach Yamato Cannon. We see strolling there behind them now. Well, yesterday, Mr. Rawls came in there. He pulled out the Corki in the very first game, a mid-game focused comp from ROC, but just missing their power spikes.
Yeah, it was kind of weird watching ROC play here because the comp they ran it's fairly simple what it has to do. Your AD carry gets a Trinity Force, you get 1 item on your Lulu, and you start poking and sieging away. You have Steve split pushing. Instead, as we just saw in this clip here, they started team fighting 4v5. They allowed elements to sit and farm up, and suddenly Froggen on a Vladimir, for once, got to go late game. He ended up like 7-8-0 and just carried the team fights because Rocket did absolutely nothing in the mid game and just allowed elements to do whatever they want.
Yeah, and a huge problem with Vlad as well. Like, when he's behind, he's kind of like, meh. But when Vlad gets ahead, he's like unkillable and he will also one-shot you. So it was like a huge problem. I think it's almost impossible to lose with a fed Vlad.
And I think, you know, not only misplaying the power timings of Rocket's comp yesterday, just the fact that they even tried to, you know, play late game and not be proactive at all. Yes, they had a sub. Yes, they have to adjust to an AD carry who, you know, is on the squad. But I think if they give SK the same time, they may face similar things. But both of these teams have shown a lot of decision-making errors as the weeks have rolled on.
And it's just so hard to predict which team shows up when Rocket plays here. They beat Origin last week. Great early game, you know, get a lead, snowball it from there. Then against Elements, they do absolutely nothing in the mid game. Versus SK here, I feel like Rocket can almost lose it, you know, for themselves. If they don't perform well enough, SK is going to take it.
Yeah, can't let that get in their heads. We'll see what happens. And as we check in with the caster for picks and bans, Jankos thinks SK has the tools to perform on the LCS stage. But according to him, the team has some work to do first.
About SK, I think they have the potential. Like, they are for sure not bottom 3 team. Like, they should be in playoffs at least, you know? They are a good team. They just need to find it. Kinda just sit down, play the game, and see how it goes. And I honestly think they will come back.
Perhaps his own team will come back as well. Hello, everybody. I'm Devin Pyrotechnics Young, and of course, I'm alongside the Belgian brother from another mother. It is Mitch Crepo Forspools as Rocket and SK make their final preparations going into champion selection. Crepo, excited for this one?
I'm excited. Will be a very interesting game too. Both teams have a lot to prove, and both teams really need the victory against each other because SK, you know, they have a good chance of beating Rocket. Rocket have a good chance of beating SK, but later on in the season, they're going to have a lot tougher opponents. So definitely looking forward how exactly this one pans out.
Absolutely, and well, for SK at least, they've got the momentum on their side. A much-needed victory yesterday.
The one-game winning streak.
One game. I mean, it's better than a game losing streak, that's for sure. Rocket a little bit back and forth. We'll see if maybe they can snap the trend today. They've definitely seen some improvement.
Yeah, I like that SK yesterday came in with a plan. They didn't execute it to fully perfection, but at least they had a nice plan. Rocket, they came in with some decent picks, but just didn't do anything. Just slowly waited to start losing the game and eventually lost the game. So at least SK was trying to an extent.
That is what we're going to see going forward here in picks and bans. The Gragas off the board, no surprises, still continues to be very, very contested. Rek'Sai also off the table. This drops to the next tier of junglers. And also the Jace, once again, since this changes he's received on the new patch.
Yeah, Jace definitely looked strong yesterday when we saw him. Unfortunately for the Copenhagen Wolves, I think it was everything around him kind of crumbled before he came into full effect, rather. Rise is still open, if I believe, yeah? So SK Gaming prioritizing Lee Sin over Rise.
Interesting, interesting.
Not sure how I feel about that one.
Yeah, it's a little bit curious there. Let's see what Rocket answer with if they go ahead and snap up the Rise for Steve right away. Of course, for him, he's not played this champion yet. He did, well, I want to see if they do decide to take it, but Sivir has also been something we've been talking about. Has to be very, very high prioritized for Rallis.
We could see a Sivir Maokai coming out here out of Rocket. You know, even though Maokai doesn't have the highest win rate percentage so far in the European LCS, it just seems to be a comfort pick for top laners that are quite trying to find their ground, which explains why the win rate is, you know, as low as it is, around 37%, I believe it is. So definitely not the strongest, but yeah, Rocket, I like that they're hovering Sivir, especially since that Kallista's out of there. And then Alistar, we keep saying how it's a tier 1 pick, but I actually took a look at the stats, and Alistar's win rate is not as impressive as one would think. Hovering around 35.3% win rate, and for a tier 1 support pick, it either shows that the pick is overrated or people are just not using it to the full potential, because I think it's fantastic.
I think that might be the case too, because I mean, we haven't as often seen the Sivir Alistar get to combo up. A lot of teams will take one away when the other's not available. There hasn't been a lot of Sivir bans, but we have seen a lot of Alistar bans with so much focus on the jungle here. That kind of took that away. So now SK Gaming for their side, see what they answer with. They already prioritized the Lee Sin since top tier junglers were banned away, and at the end of it, we're going to go ahead and lock the Lulu and lock the Cassiopeia, starting to look a lot like yesterday.
Yeah, pretty traditional SK Gaming picks here. Fox just wants that control mage in the mid lane. He's a little immobile on Cassiopeia, but Lulu support does help fixing that. You know, if you ever get caught, you have the wild growth knocking people up, and then buys you enough time to use your ultimate.
Yes, indeed.
See what Nukeduck answers with. Also, Nukeduck hasn't been putting too much pressure in his lanes lately so far, so yeah, Fox could actually have an advantage there.
Yeah, I think it's really going to be interesting to see how those two do match up, because we've been seeing all these crazy lane swaps, all these crazy early game moves from a lot of the teams, and the mids just kind of turned into this sort of quiet farm fest. I don't think that's going to be the case this game.
Now going back to that first pick, Lee Sin, both tier junglers were out. SK Gaming said, okay, Jankos, we think you're one of the best players on Rocket, so we want to challenge your champion pool. You will not be able to pick Evelynn because Lee Sin traditionally does well to that, so he seems to be going for the Nidalee jungle. However, Nidalee is usually what you do for like a poke siege comp. I guess it can work when you get to the towers and you have those spears. combined with the Victor E, and then you can get out with On the Hunt. However, Sivir is one of the shorter range AD carries, so getting to that tower might prove difficult, especially when you have the threat of a Cassiopeia R flash in your face.
Right, and isn't it a little bit risky too? You kind of telegraph that I need to make plays early on this in Italy. I need to get into the enemy jungle and maybe make some plays and shut the Lee Sin down. But if it doesn't work, what then?
Well, then you obviously fall behind and your poke does less damage, but you can still group efficiently. Sivir just solves a lot of problems in a lot of team comps, but we'll have to see if that's the approach that Jankos wants to take, right? If he wants to invade the enemy jungle early, then group up with his mid laner, with his bot lane, and poke people defending out, hope they're stationary targets, poke them out, and then try and get some towers. Could be the approach, but Rocket's looking for a tank right now, so could be likely that we see another Maokai coming out of Steve later.
Well, SK Gaming, they maybe are looking to do something that they saw played against them yesterday.
All right.
Got the Shen locked in for Freddy. Candy Panda will be on the Vayne.
So, Cyanide on the desk was saying how Candy Panda played his Caitlyn like a Vayne, so he might as well play the Vayne himself. Oh yeah, you have the good old submarine combo used to be Twitch Shen, where Twitch goes invisible and then the Shen lands. Vayne can do a submarine light. Tumble invisibility for like 1 second. But yeah, you can protect your hyper carry in these fights pretty well. They have a decent amount of peel. I mean, Lulu will obviously get Vayne through most laning phases and keep her alive in the fights. Shen is defensive peel. So very, very distinct double threat composition coming out of SK Gaming. Last time they ran that, I feel, against H2K, it was Ryu would just take out one threat immediately on his TF, and then eventually Candy Panda fell behind on that Vayne. See if he can get ahead. It does lane well into Sivir though.
Yeah, and also they've got a way to protect both the Vayne and the Cassiopeia quite well between the Shen and the Lulu. I mean, there's a lot of artificial tankiness there that you can establish, a lot of shields you can build up, and it's going to be hard for Rocket to pick a single target off, and even if that's what they're trying to do. So last pickup, of course, is going to be Steve's Gnar, to see how this one plays into the Shen. Start this game off.
Now, if this Gnar gets a lead, gets the Black Cleaver, then we could see a repetition of what we saw yesterday. I believe it was Freddy playing the Gnar into a Shen even. It's just showing how much pressure you can open up the map with. That might prove a little cumbersome for the SK Gaming lineup. Their side lanes are under pressure a lot. If Gnar can get a lead on the Shen, and if the Vayne Lulu eventually get pushed in and Nidalee joins there and starts poking on the towers, their side lane wave clear is limited to an extent. However, Rocket will eventually have to be careful in fights because there's a whole lot of sustained damage coming out of Cassiopeia and Vayne as these double threats.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting.
I feel like even though they've got a very early game jungler in the Lee Sin, it's really just going to serve as a bridge to get them to this later stage, see if that's what they can pull off. We know Rocket typically have had some longer games, but of course it's been a little inconsistent from them. Their win over Origin was quick, but I don't know. I feel like SK, they're experimenting a little bit and they're trying to do it. So let's take a look as things get started. Of course, if you guys want to let us know at home who you think is going to walk away with this one, go ahead and tweet us at LOL Esports. It is hashtag SKWin or hashtag ROCWin as we're getting ready to get into the game between Rocket and SK Gaming. Both these teams, they need a win, that's for sure. Why don't you guys at home start making some noise? The crowd certainly is here. We're about ready to load up onto the Rift.
Yeah, I think it will be less composition based this game, but rather just the level of play we'll see and the strategy involved. Both teams have shown lapses in judgment when it comes to game-wide plays, strategy across the board. I think both lineups could win this game. Just all comes down to the play. Eventually, every game has to be played.
Well, what I really want to know is, assuming we get standard lanes in the situation, which it looks like we're starting to, unless some craziness happens in the next few moments, how does this Sivir Alistar lane really how is it really going to try and push and punish Candy Panda and raid it back to keep the Vayne from getting rolling?
It usually doesn't actually. Sivir lanes well into Vayne, and then you have the disparity of a melee range support into a poke sustain support like Lulu. Obviously sustain doesn't really sustain, but it has the shields to prevent damage, so you can call it a bit of a poke sustain lane. It should be fine. Honestly, I expect him to go even CS, if not a slight advantage on the Vayne even. Panda's going in here for the ward.
Yep, he had some pretty big setups, and I want to go back to the game against Origin because his Nautilus play was actually quite impressive, but this Alistar too, it's still some playmaking potential. I think a lot's going to be on him in this mid-game especially to see what he can do against SK to try and keep them from going forward. Take a look at his stats on Alistar though.
Yeah, and they're gonna lane swap too right now because they don't want to dodge that laning phase. I don't think Vayne is a good matchup for Sivir Alistar, so they want to dodge out. And yeah, here we see Vander with his stats so far. Yeah, a little above the average of the supports in KDA. I think he's a good player, Vander. He's one of the few shining lights on Rocket.
He contributes a fair amount of damage as far as supports go. He's one of the higher ranked ones on that regard, but of course, that's not always a good thing. Sometimes you're saying your support has to do most of the damage.
He wards a lot. Keeps a lot of vision up for the Rocket lineup. On losing teams, that's incredibly hard to do with your vision control, so.
All right.
Krug's being done by both teams here. Initiated
so
lane
doing it?
They're doing it fine. There's no wrong or right way to do it when you only have one AoE ability, so Candy Panda clears it up, gets the gold, but he's gonna walk into an empty lane, whereas Freddy right now, he's stuck in the traditional SK lane swap style. Freddy doesn't start double jungle, he's sitting in that lane, and usually people with a good idea of how to lane swap will end up punishing Freddy for this, but they have to move 4 people to the top side of the map and just dive him straight. If SK wants to prevent this for once, Enrated always has to base almost right now. But even then, if they see Enrated, then Steve can teleport in return, to the bot lane, so it's a very complex, material. However, Freddy got to level 2 early, and I might actually, with the assist from Svenskeren, he might actually be able to prevent that dive. So.
Yeah, so let's see. Vander just keeps knocking him away from this farm. They're going to try to keep Freddy as down as they possibly can. He'll be able to sustain a little bit through the Doran shield, but yeah, it could be a rough start for him. Meanwhile, Steve's still hanging around with Jankos, just double jungled up, but they are moving towards the top side.
I mean, neither lane throws, so both teams can see what's going to happen, right? They see both lanes pushing towards that tier 1 tower, so very predictable line of play coming in. SK should definitely expect a dive on the top lane, 100% guaranteed. Rocket should expect that SK is expecting it, but it doesn't seem.
Not sure
SK is actually expecting it.
Yeah, Freddy looks to start backing away, but there's Jankos and Steve heal up. He's going to dash his way. Spear's going to connect. In comes Jankos. Do they have enough damage? Flash from Freddy. And he's back to tower, but now we've got 4v0 on this top side for Rocket. 2 down on the bottom for SK.
Now, obviously, Steve can't teleport to the bot lane either because he's so afraid of getting condemned into wall, and he doesn't know where Svenskeren is. That's a problem. The difference right now is that Svenskeren in this SK lane swap style gets a bit of an experience lead usually over Jankos because he's solo jungler. Jankos was double jungling with Steve. But Freddy, he lost a lot of his summoners there. He lost some pressure. He's losing some experience, so he might be slightly behind. And in that crucial side lane Gnar Chen matchup, it might actually prove difficult later on for SK Gaming.
Yeah, SK definitely going to have to be a little bit extra careful, especially teams, have been able to figure them out so far this split. And this is a team that for a long time, this last couple of weeks, they've struggled for an identity. And now, well, they picked up the 1 win, but following forward on Rocket here, they do seem to be a little bit behind the curve.
Yeah, and we should normally see both tier 1 towers going down here with a bounce wave, meaning after you kill the tower, you manipulate the waves in a fashion that they push back towards your tier 1, and you make it incredibly hard to farm for the person that will show up. However, Candy Panda hasn't taken down that tower on the bot lane yet. He's waiting for an item spike. But Steve, since the tower went down on top lane so quick, he's here soaking a farm. So this is a mistake from SK Gaming because they haven't shopped yet. They can't deny Steve that much. The wave bounce, they'll push back eventually, but tricky. But Steve can just walk up right now.
And he's got backup too. Yeah. Svenskeren back. There was really no pressure against Steve, and he was able to, grab a little bit of that farm. Freddy, however, is getting pre-farmed solo. So where does this leave our 2 top laners right now, Trepo?
Poor Steve. Walks all the way to the bottom lane, gets 3 CS, and then Rocket says, okay, you've done your job. Go back to the top lane. This is Rawless's farm. But yeah, he has to burn teleport because that wave eventually pushed in the tower. I don't know really who pushed that out, but Steve's soaking up a lot of XP left and right. At the same time, Rawless is getting easy farm too, so good start by Rocket. However, the gold advantage seems to still be in SK Gaming's favor. Mostly, I guess it's on Svenskeren then. Or actually in the mid lane, we haven't been talking about too much. I was wondering where that 200 gold lead came from, because it should actually have been in Rocket's favor, but it seems that Fox is pressuring NukeDuck in the mid lane.
Well, yeah, and we mentioned before, it's oftentimes we see all of this action happening top and bottom and just a little bit of back and forth between the 2 teams, but now everyone's starting to focus their attention closer to the mid. Jankos is found by Svenskeren. Sven wants to take a fight here. Jankos is looking to jump away, but NukeDuck's there for the backup. Will he have enough damage? No, he's gonna force the flash. And now Steve has come to the rescue, clearing out some wards, throws the boomerang onto Sven. Will they continue to chase? It looks like no for the time being.
Good aggressive move from Svenskeren. He uses the fact that he was solo jungling, had the better positioning. Found Jankos first. In this matchup, it all matters who finds who. Who gets the first, who shoots first. Who is the Han Solo in this equation.
Well, looks like so far it's been Sven, but he is going to be taking a trip closer back to his own jungle and closer probably back to the base to shop for a little bit. Meanwhile, Rocket, they've kind of tried to even this one out. The tower, of course, fell on both sides, so now it's settled down a little bit. The gold lead is very slight here for SK Gaming. But Steve and Freddy, of course, were very typically set pretty far behind, but this is a big wave that Freddy's looking to take.
Yeah, Freddy definitely wants to soak tower up. There doesn't seem to be any pressure on Rocket's side to deny that. Let's see if they can use that wave pressure before Shen gets his ultimate down to get an objective somewhere, make a play, get a numbers advantage. Steve, he's afraid to farm this, so he might as well move to the mid lane, try and chunk somebody out, or do something, put some pressure. If you're just loitering around in that lane, giving Freddy free farm, not really using your advantage right there.
Yeah, I can't help but feel like the more Rocket are kind of lollygagging around, the better this is for SK. They want the game to go even as long as possible. They have pretty heavy scaling on the side. Yes, there's a Victor on Nuke Duck, and yes, they have this sort of pseudo chase, pseudo poke composition that they have, or that they're able to utilize. I still feel like the power of the picks on SK side is just going to overwhelm them eventually.
Lee Sin does fall off, so does Nidalee. I think both teams are okay with scaling, and again, it'll come down to play. It'll all come down to how well Candy Panda can use, his range in these fights. Vayne is very short-range AD carry. Requires a high level of micro play to really pull it off. So dance around a lot of threats, but there's limited targeted CC on the side of Rocket. Only really the pulverize that you can find with the headbutt combo, and even then, you're looking for a Gnar ulti. That's pretty much it. And Vayne is pretty good at dealing with a Gnar, so I didn't always like the Vayne pick from Candy Panda, but against a team like Rocket that's notorious for playing a very slow early to mid game, you can get away with the weaknesses of Vayne, especially picked into Sivir. Creates a very predictable early game. But again, we haven't seen any high-level strategy yet from either of these teams, so...
Yeah, it seems like they're just trying to feel each other out, really.
Yeah.
And as a result, we've only had the towers fall. We've had the gold dead even. We're not quite 10 minutes in, so it's still plenty of time. Nobody's really prioritized the dragon just yet either. Instead, they're kind of looking to just try to get a defensive angle here.
Yeah, and in these even games, what you have to do is just take an eye out vision, see how that eventually tries to snowball a lead. Vander, as we said before, 1.6 wards per minute, I believe it was, compared to the 1.2 average of supports. So wards more than your average support, and SK, notorious for having relatively poor vision control. That might be the opening that Rocket eventually finds.
Yeah, they'll certainly be looking for one. This game continues
Janko
to
spots
be,
out Svenskuren.
I would say, a little bit predictable in the opening, but SK are looking to try and grab themselves the vision control around the Dragon Pit. You have kind of a split up between N-Rated and Candy Panda here, but Vander's not keen on letting them get it for free.
Yeah, this is... A game in this state obviously devolves into what they call the ward wars. Two supports fighting over a pink ward.
Someone's going to get that 30 gold. Oh,
but we're not cheering for that. Nope, we're not doing that. That's done. Disagree.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so it's still kind of settled with Steve and Freddy up top. They're really struggling to try and get themselves back into this game. So who has the edge here when you're liking the farm?
I mean, in that matchup, eventually... Didn't hear that. Gnar gets ahead of the Shen with the poke if he gets that cleaver, but we missed that actually on your screen right there. We saw that both teams have an incredibly late early first dragon on average. SK and Rocket hovering on a 15-minute mark, and it shows that they have these very slow early games. Either they're losing them and they don't get the early dragons themselves, or they're just not, setting anything in motion. The way you usually get your dragon is you push your side lanes, you free up that resource on the bot lane, you move that to the mid lane, pressure that in, then get some deep vision, and then force your opponent to be so afraid that they can't face check that you can secure that objective. Very few objectives taken, traded at all, just very slow and early start.
Yeah, I mean, this worked well for SK last split when they had Forgiven and they were just the masters of the 1-3-1, but they can't really rely on that anymore, and you can tell that they've been trying a lot of different things, and one of them is not trying to secure all those early objectives. They pretty much just match the pace of Rocket. Rocket, as you said, are known for this very slow start to a game, very defensive opening to the game. So it's really no surprise that neither team has attempted this dragon. They've really only been throwing some wards down in the general area.
Now we do see that after the lane swap, Gnar doesn't really have that offensive potential to chunk out the Chen just yet. And then the bot lane, see the Vayne and Lulu kind of like threatening the CS of Sivir and Alistar there. So they're slightly getting a bit of a lead. And SK is fine with that. Because bot lane will never be able to fight. SK will always be able to start a fight because Freddy always has the opportunity to just ultimate in and then get a taunt off Nuke Duck. Q, but
backstop for now.
no
He's gonna have
fancy
to do it
insects.
again.
Fox wasn't around, so
Nope. And actually, as far as the farm goes, this is actually evened out quite a bit as Sven does take another stop to this. A lot of people on Rocket's side heading up top. Still a few more in the middle, just trying to keep it defended. But this opens up an opportunity for SK to go ahead and start off this Dragon. Nobody's at home. They're not going to be able to get here in time. So SK recognizing the opening that they have, take it without a moment's hesitation.
And Rated won the Ward War against his foe and adversary, Vander. And SK finally secure Dragon. 12 minutes in the game.
That's what we're cheering. Absolutely.
Second, I guess, objective for them. Third in the game so far. No kills. A lot of anticipation.
Yeah, both the teams, they're really playing to just not lose that first blood up. It's really just been some solo plays around. Nobody's really gathered up. And you can tell how risk-averse these two teams are. And it's a wonder, as Steve jumps onto Freddy in that Mega Gnar farm. He's still very tanky.
Jankos.
Jankos is here. There's no tower to fall back to. Freddy's got a dash. He's got a flash. He might have to use them both. Steve's gone back to Mini Gnar, though.
Yeah, and they saw Svenskeren.
Svenskeren's here.
Well, they were afraid of Svenskeren, so nothing really happened. Had some action at least. Almost happened.
Yeah, it just speaks to how defensive these two
Fox
teams
is going here, connected to poison.
As I say it, Nuke Duck's in some trouble. Fox is on him and he poisons him down. 13 minutes in, well earned.
Yeah, eventually, once you hit that level 9 and you have those Twin Fangs maxed out, all you need to do is connect one poison. Because Victor is immobile. He's running the cleanse, but he flashes, you flash after him, as long as you dodge that gravity field. And this is big. A lot of tower damage on the mid lane, and this is...
Oh! Yeah, Svenskeren, he's going to be in some trouble. He's battered and bruised around, but they can't pick him up as Freddy comes in with the stand united. Steve Jankos Vander leading the charge on Fox to push the wave back, but they don't get a kill.
Svenskeren calling for some help there. Got cut out by the Q flash from Vander. As I was saying, it's big that they got the damage on the middle tower because that's the most wave clear on Rocket's side. That Victor E, it's really hard to push and siege into a Victor. And if any tier 1 tower goes down, you want it to be the mid lane tower because it opens up the map so much more. So not only was that a crucial pick-off, you know, to tilt that matchup in favor for Fox, he also got the first blood bonus. And in addition to that, a whole lot of damage on the middle tower. So this is good. We might see the game hopefully accelerate. If SK can push up their side lanes, free up their resources, pressure the mid lane, get the Victor off the wave, get that first tower down. Then we can see those Ward Wars no longer go on in the river, but move towards the Wolves, the Wraiths, and so on.
So little advantages here for SK. They've managed to get a pick here. They've gotten the first Dragon. They're not really ceding any ground to Rocket, who again are playing this out very defensively. And if SK can continue to take advantage of that, they can turn those small edges into a big lead.
Yeah, definitely so, but very tempered early game. Gold bang on even though the first blood happened. See, but we understand why these teams are playing the way they are right now. They're just so afraid of losing that they might not want to snowball the game as hard as they can because they really need that victory right now.
Exactly. When you're combined 3 wins between these two teams, you know, it's very easy to let that get into your head and think,
hey,
okay,
I've been in these situations.
Yeah, what do you do? What do you do in this situation then, Krepo?
I mean, become a caster.
All right. One possible option for these guys, though, in the more immediate future. See what they continue to do to try and keep this game back in control.
You find a systematic opening, that's what you do. You try and make a plan, but 2 steps ahead, and Fox...
I'll talk about a systematic opening. Vander gets the combo on him, and Jankos will take him down. Steve was turned to stone for a second, but he's right back to it. Here's the Chaos Storm coming out. Jankos is pushed away. Freddy trying to tank the line. He's very tanky with the wild growth, but still going extremely low as Svenskeren drops low as well.
Yeah, and SK Gaming can never win a fight if one of their 2 threats goes down immediately. Fox gets popped, no return damage, then the fight is almost unwinnable because Vayne, she hasn't ramped up to the hyper carry that she will become in the late game, not quite yet. And good pickoff on Rocket, good opening, and that's what you need.
Yeah, to grab that back in control, they get themselves a gold lead, they knock down the mid tower.
That's the most important part, get that objective. Always tie your kills with an objective.
And that's something Rocket does well. When they do manage to get those kills, they know what to do with them. The problem is, you have to wait for opponents to make mistakes. That time, worked out.
Yeah, they did catch Fox with his pants down. He got that first blood, but he got his he used his flash to get it, and good punish by Rocket.
They're gonna lose a tower here though, even though there's no minions away. They're able to tank the line, and Svenskeren! Beautiful. Mid-insec, and down went Nuke Duck.
Yeah, lack of respect on SK's side. They're not thinking ahead. If you make that play, if you get that tower, you will have to base. Rocket's members will be coming back from the base, so if you don't base immediately and you lose the tempo and you're not back in time to defend that tower, you might as well drop it entirely because they'll have a HP item advantage, and then, yeah, once the Q connects.
it seems like both these teams are just sort of trading little bits here. Small mistakes, but they are being punished. So clearly, both SK and Rocket are learning from the mistakes of their previous games. It's good to see that evolution.
Well, they're still making, every team is still making a mistake.
That's true, it's
so
the flip side of the coin.
they're learning how to capitalize on the enemy's mistakes while still making their own.
They got one half of the equation right now, Crepo.
Yeah.
It makes for an exciting game, though, now that it's kicked up in notch in pace. So Freddy trying to push the tide of Rocket's minion wave back. He knows Jankos is around the side, still safely farming away. That is a very tanky Shen, even on one item.
Yeah, because the lane swap kind of slowed down, Steve wasn't able to get too many offensive items early to start bullying out Freddy and penetrate that armor. So he stayed tanky enough to deal with Steve for the majority of the match. That kept SK somewhat in the game, bought them some time. Yeah, we have kind of forgotten about Candy Panda. Blade of the Runic King finished right now, going for his second item. Wants those Silver Bolt procs to deal a lot of damage in fights.
Yeah, and if Rocket are the ones that end up forgetting about Candy Panda, this could be really rough for them. 30 seconds on the next dragon, you can be certain this one will not be free for SK. Rocket already pushing forward, throwing down the wards, clearing the crabs away, making sure that SK cannot get in there undetected.
Yeah, and it's very hard to regain vision into one of these like high mobility poke compositions because you have to constantly walk into the dark, and in the dark could be an Italy Spear, could be a Victor E right here. Need some laser beams, could be an Angry Cow.
Both these top laners too can get into the fight. Yes, there's a teleport down on Freddy, but of course he's got another one in his back pocket.
Thing is, Freddy can cancel Steve's, and if Steve is not in Mega Gnar, he can't cancel Freddy, so that's a big disparity right there.
And you don't want to be in Mega Gnar when you're teleporting in anyways, then your fight's not as effective.
You want to be on the edge of that rage bar, 80 or 90 rage. That's where you want to be roughly. Side lanes, pretty neutral right now. There's slow pushing on the bot lane, so this frees up Candy Panda as a resource. So you see him pull off rather. Join his team. SK wants control over the dragon area right now.
This is smart too. They know that Steve is in Mega Gnar trying to push in, and that Rocket have thus backed off. So even though the crab control is in their favor, that's not really going to matter much. It's going to be at best a 4v5. Jankos is actually going to move in onto Freddy, so they're going to try to trade here.
Yeah, this is a good reaction by Rocket. They know they lose that dragon, but they have to hurry up if they want to rotate to the top tower because SK have that slow pushing wave on the bottom lane. The Candy Panda sit in motion. They can group on that wave. They don't have much wave clear. Victor is completely out of position, so we need to see if they can clear this wave with the Sivir.
No, Freddy is still kind of fast.
Will be rough.
Mega Gnar's going close. There's the tower down. Steve goes Mega Gnar, but now, once again, SK, they're setting their sights on trading. They'll easily be able to secure this one up.
I don't like the fact that Raulos and Vander went to the bottom lane because they're not going to be able to hold that. They may as well be in mid and went for maybe a base race scenario where they have two lanes pushing in on Rocket side, only one on SK. Yeah. They stopped the bleeding.
Well, let's slow down a minute because there's a lot of stuff that's happened, a lot of objectives that have been traded in the last few minutes. The Dragon goes over to SK, Rocket are able to trade a tower, but then they lose one of their own in the bottom side. As it stands, Rocket holds a slim gold lead despite the two Dragons over to SK. And that's really just going to be on the back of slightly better farming, but SK definitely, they seem like they're the ones controlling the pace of this game, Crepo.
Yeah, I definitely think this game is slowly going towards SK Gaming right here because we saw Rocket, they had the vision control on the Dragon and chose to do nothing with it. They didn't force a bait, they didn't force any poke, they're not grouping up with Victor and Italy at all to poke somebody out and get the tower. They're only getting towers when SK gives them the opportunity to trade. But in the midst of every trade, SK gets an additional dragon, and that's a big thing. If we move towards 3 dragons, 5% movement speed will come in big. Somewhat nullify that on the hunt.
Well, when you've got a Vayne on your team, when you've got a Cassiopeia on your team, a little extra movement speed is going to go a long way. And yes, it's offset by Rala's ultimate, but then that basically means that part of what Rocket's trying to do isn't going to work out too well, is it?
Yeah, it won't. No, we're just waiting for Steve to get tanky enough to become a split push threat on that Black Cleaver Gnar. However, SK has an answer today though. Yesterday when we saw the Gnar Shen matchup, he was the only one who could deal with the Gnar potentially. But Vayne will later on be able to, I think, deal with Steve a little better.
Yeah. See if Steve's able to handle it for the time being. Ral is there for the defense as Candy Panda goes to push up the wave. They're bringing in Svenskeren as well. Another wave at their backs. Fox is making the slow trek up, slithering through the river. And SK might look to throw their weight around here. 21 minutes on the clock, looking to start pressuring Rocket, who are just going to fall back from this tower. SK Gaming will grab that one for free. And the gold lead back in their favor.
Yeah, it's very hard to defend these tier 1 towers at this point in the game because it's too hard to trade a tier 1 for a tier 2 because the distance is too big on the map. You know, Rocket couldn't really go for a tier 2 in mid because otherwise they would end up trading 2 towers anyway, so might as well give up that free tier 1 turret. Luckily for them, or unluckily for them, they still have that one tier 1 up on the bottom lane, SK Gaming. That's kind of the only thing keeping this game from being a little more even. But that one will eventually fall.
Well, SK are really doing a good job here of grouping up and forcing Rocket to dance to their tune. It's really kind of been the story of the game, not the grouping up, but the fact that they have controlled the tempo. And this is, I feel like this is just Rocket's inability to do exactly that. As Svenskeren goes in, he's going to be slowed up for just a second, but he's got the wild growth on, and in goes Freddy. Out to the stand United, they're just looking to find anyone they can as Candy Panda comes around the side in the final hour, decides to chase onto the Sivir. Rales under tower, Candy doesn't care, and he picks him up, but he might fall. No, the heal will keep him alive. Freddy just knocked out of tower range, and he's safe.
Candy Panda managed to do what he couldn't do last week, the 1v1, Vayne into Sivir. We saw Hjarnan take the better of him last week, but finally he gets that retribution, gets that kill. But still, sloppy fight. I mean, the way that all started, you know, Svenskeren goes in, gets pulverized immediately, Shen lands, Shen goes in, eventually Candy Panda goes into the left. Let's watch that again. So, yeah, brush check, you connects, Svenskeren gets peeled off, and I feel like Rocket can disengage here perfectly fine. Rollins steps in and he doesn't really have eyes on Candy Panda. Tries to peel for Jankos, who's fine. He flashes out, but Rollins oversteps and he gets baited. Yeah, good tumble by Candy Panda. Acted as if he was going down in the fight, then used the invisibility of his tumble to go upwards. And caught Mr. Rollins with his pants down.
Yeah, and as you said, it was really sloppy. I feel, though, that Svenskeren in particular and all of SK, they're a little confident in the fact that they've got so many shields if someone who does decide to dive in. They didn't actually even break through much of them with all the combos. Yes, he was CC'd for days, but it's going to be hard for Rocket to pick off a single target, and I feel like SK, very well aware of this, are playing a little reckless on purpose.
Yeah, SK is at least trying to go offensive, having a hard time to make an opening with their composition. I mean, the only hard engage they have is Taunt Flash, and then, yeah, Svenskeren going in and getting a kick flash out, perhaps. So I like that he's going in, even if it looks like it's a sloppy engage. It's starting fights, at least. And
they got one.
SK is confident with starting the fight, you know, being 5-man together and just having the engage window. If they can use their vision, that's enough. But if Rocket actually wards properly and can see SK coming, then it's going to be almost impossible to start a good fight.
Well, here's a question for Rocket, though. Right now, they're not giving up too much to SK, a little bit here, a little bit there. That could turn into something big. But for the time being, what do they need to do to keep SK from getting to this late game point where they're happy with, and also to keep them from continuing to pick these little advantages up?
They need to use a good on the hunt, you know, manipulate the side waves so SK has to spread their resources. Then get that movement speed steroid, catch somebody off guard. But even on their side, they're running double poke with a Gnar and then an Alistar. That's their only engage, so Rocket is doing what Rocket always does. Lay back, you know, wait for a mistake, and if the enemy makes it, sure, we can win the game. If they don't, we slowly lose. Not too big of a fan of that line of play, because I feel you'll always get exploited by better teams. We haven't seen Rocket use their double poke to their advantage once.
Well, at least as far as builds go, they're planning for a little bit of a later game, which is, you know, the Rocket calling card Jankos with the Rod of Ages. He's had that for a little while now. You know, the Diamond build, as a lot of people have called it. But they're not really making use of it, as you mentioned. Not use of the poke at all. They're giving up Dragon Control again to SK Gaming. Yes, they're all in the area, but it's way too little, way too late. They barely check into it. They throw a boomerang. It's a token gesture, and they get absolutely nothing for this. Third Dragon goes over to SK Gaming. It's 25 minutes in. That's going to start to get scary.
Yeah, initially they could trade a Dragon for a tier 1 tower, but they ran out of towers to trade for, and they could have foreseen this. If you know you're not going to contest that, why hang around in the mid lane and watch SK Gaming finish the Dragon? This is poor pre-planning from Rocket. They're not thinking 2 steps ahead, they're thinking 1 step ahead. In their minds, they're going, okay guys, Dragon's gonna spawn in a minute from now. Let's ward a bit. All right, we warded. Okay guys, Dragon's coming up. What can we do? And then they realized there's almost nothing they can do. But if they were thinking 2 steps ahead and it was like, okay, how is this fight gonna play out? All right, we're gonna lose. How do we solve that? Okay, let's migrate to the left side of the map. Deny them some vision, you know, make the left side dark. Perhaps even season that tier 2 tower or inhibitor turret. Something, you know, set up a bait.
2 steps forward, or maybe 1 step forward and then 2 back. Steve is the one who's getting shoved back. He's forced to use his Gnar ulti and a flash to avoid Freddy and Candy Panda. Gravity Field is thrown down. In comes Vander. Rocket looking to collapse back, but Candy and Freddy are already on the retreat path. Fox coming around the side. This could be a bloody fight.
Oh, Steve connect.
Oh, goodbye, Steve.
Oh, fantastic kick.
Kick back in by Sven, but it doesn't matter. He's taken down by Rales. Jankos now moving forward, stunned up by Freddy.
Fox
He's going to get evaporated. It's a 2-for-1 so far. Fox just can't make it over as the Gromp aggroes him. And all said and done, SK get the better of that trade.
Again, Svenskun going in and securing 1 or 2 kills for his team here. Always being the aggressor. It somehow works out for SK Gaming. But even if they didn't get the kill on Steve, what they got is his flash, and that's vital because that's Rocket's only, comeback potential in these fights. Having Gnar flash in and use the ulti, we saw how well it can work on a Gnar for SK Gaming yesterday. So getting that flash down is big. Vander's flash is down as well. Rocket for the next 4 minutes have no engage tools.
But for SK Gaming, this just kind of proves the confidence that they had in making this pick. Candy Panda on this vein, you said it in Champ Select, he's not going to have a hard time dealing with this Gnar at all. Well, that was definitely true.
Especially if you have a Stand United on your back,
Yeah, no fear at all. Uh-oh, Vander! Let's see if he can get away at the cost of an Unbreakable Will.
Man, this is where the vision control starts faltering for Rocket. They don't have enough offensive zoning control to get those wards in, so eventually SK Gaming will be able to choke them out of vision. They might wait for 4th Dragon, get some Baron control, because they're moving around Rocket around the map. Every time SK walks forward, Rocket walks backwards. So they need to keep doing that, eventually push Rocket into their base, Night of Vision, set up a potential bait, or simply that rush down the Baron. Later in the game with Vayne and Cassiopeia,
it's not hard to do.
You can take down a Baron quick. And here's Steve
We've
for round 2.
Before. Candy Panda this time is knocked into the wall. Let's see with the help of Freddy what he can do. Steve realizes he's got nothing left, and Candy Panda, true silver bolts, true damage.
And look
Steve.
at the other side of the map. Nothing is happening on Rocket's side because they're so far back. SK can comfortably put 2 people, 3 people in that bot lane because Rocket has no idea where they are. And once they show up, it's too late to react. They're too far away from any objective, from any tower to trade. So Steve was essentially overextended.
Yeah, it's just Rocket are not doing enough realizing when they have a slight opening. They're going to lose somebody. Okay, cool. Steve is going to get caught. Whatever. You have a number advantage, and then they don't do anything with it. They're no longer really seeing these slight openings and taking them. They're relying on mistakes, big mistakes, but that isn't happening from SK anymore. SK are controlling this game.
And we're seeing some pretty big item spikes here. Triple items on Candy Panda, including the Last Whisper. That's huge. And then Fox is racking up the AP as well. Death Cap finished.
So much
this double threat composition. In addition to that, so much shields. Shen is getting incredibly tanky. Rocket does not have time to get through the Shen and the Lee Sin because by that time, SK's double threat composition will have taken them down in this fight. But they're having a hard time getting to Vayne, getting to Cassiopeia with all that peel from SK. So big task ahead, and their poke is just not enough, If Enraided can comfortably walk up to Jankos, eat the spear on that distance, and lose maybe 15% of his health, then Jankos is, out of the fight almost. If your poke is not threatening anymore, then you lose so much ground.
And that's exactly what's happening in this game. Svenskar, and he's able to just sidestep the spear, go right back to clearing the vision. SK Gaming are continuing to press their edge into the Rocket jungle, keeping their sights set on the Baron. There's a Dragon available in another minute or 2. That would be number 4 for them. And Rocket have no answer for this.
And this goes back to champions like where we said the first pick, Lee Sin. Honestly, I question it a little bit, but it seems to work out because Jankos was first on the Nidalee. Hasn't had a poor showing so far, not much impact. And Svenskun, he's been starting all these fights.
Yeah. It was a smart takeaway. Did you see why they decided to take that away as quickly as they did? It didn't allow Jankos to get on something comfortable. He's clearly not been able to play well on it.
And then the Gnar into Shen doesn't have enough pressure. Compare that to what Freddy was doing yesterday on his Gnar. He was beating his opposing Shen pretty single-handedly, but right now Steve is...
Oh, he's teleporting in. Steve.
All right.
Bye.
So that's teleport down. Tier 1 tower still up in the bot lane, so no split push advantage for Rocket. So they're playing a 4-1 with double poke. Their poke's not doing much damage. Split push just teleported out of a single fight with a Shen.
And now the Shen's got 2 teleports.
And Dragon's coming up in 15 seconds.
This could look to be another SK Dragon, Crepo. Rocket really are not in a good position to even try and contest this. They've sent Jankos up to the top side. Yep. After Dragon, then Baron starts to become a real possibility. Rocket are actually clustering around that. We might actually see them attempt to trade.
They won't the panic Baron right here.
There we go. They're going to just set up some
or bait it at least. But SK is ready to move, right? They don't have to take this Dragon yet. They can take this Dragon now, a minute from now, 2 minutes from now. All they have to do is prevent this Baron.
Sven's trying to solo this one. He might be able to get it. There's no chance that Rocket
They have
really
the vision. See,
this.
they see Rallis and they saw Jankos, and that's enough. Now they know there's nobody on the Baron anymore. Comfortably let their jungle finish it. Rocket does the same thing, moving again.
But this Dragon's definitely going down.
Blue Orb's coming up in Candy Panda.
They can check this.
Bit of a face check, be careful.
Or Dragons to none right now.
Blue Orb.
They know it's not happening because of that. Perfectly timed after it comes right back up. So Rocket aren't going to be able to get.
And now their mid lane is exposed. This is big, this is big.
Oh boy.
Rotational play from SK Gaming here.
And they've got a wave pushing on the bottom side. Now all they have to do is stop everyone backing away. Rallis is kicked in the wrong direction, but it doesn't really matter as they're just all stalled out. Fox will throw down the Petrifying Gaze. Nuke Duck blows away by Fox. Candy Panda on the rampage kill. Steve has even found a kill, but it's slight revenge as they've lost 3 already, and it's gonna be a 4th. That's a double kill over to the Vayne, and Jankos is left to defend the base solo as the remaining SK Gaming members are gonna grab themselves a Baron.
4 Dragons for SK Gaming, 4 kills for them in this fight. Looking to take down their first Baron of the game right now. And there was not much Rocket could do at this point. Mistakes were made ages ago.
Oh yeah.
10 minutes ago.
But now they're
ago.
getting cashed in by SK.
Yeah, they're finally getting manifested. Jankos, he wants to steal here, but SK can take this slow. They have all the time in the world to try and fight Jankos.
You see the hero that Rocket deserves right now. Freddy's going to make sure that that is not the case.
Candy Panda with the
jumps
connect.
over the pit. No, can't get the steal off. It's taken secured by Candy Panda, and they will grab Jankos as well.
All right.
6-0-3 on the Vayne. He's gotten tumbling.
Steve's teleport was on. I feel SK Gaming could have done that slower. He risked the potential steal here. Let's watch that again. Yeah, because Rocket is trying to rotate down to the mid lane in a quick, efficient path. They get caught out in the jungle. Watch Fox right now. Arm flash, and then immediately unleashes on Nuke Duck. 2 or 3 Twin Fangs is all he needed. And then Steve doesn't have enough tankiness. Yeah, he takes down Fox, but Candy Panda is untouched.
I really do want to highlight how well they're using the shielding, though, because that was one of the things that allowed him to stay alive long enough to take down Nuke Duck. Yes, he went down eventually to Steve, but still, 4 for 1, not a big deal. They were able to secure the Baron nice and easy. So SK, once again, big lead for them here. 5,000 gold ahead, 4 Dragons to none. Now they've got a Baron. They've even got a tower lead, as slight as it is. They can push anywhere they want on this map. They own Summoner's Rift right now, Crepo.
Yeah, this is the direction this game has been going in for a while. It was slow and steady, but that's only because of the Dragons. You know, in a game where you have such a distinctive lead in pressure and zone control, all you have to do, if you're a little hesitant, is just wait for Dragons, take 5 of them, and then eventually you're dealing poke-through damage, and then there's not much the opposing team can do.
With that, they can keep pressuring in with the Baron buff on, continue to try and shove the waves where not really needing to respect the poke, because Rocket just hasn't been able to use it very well. And when that 5th Dragon does come up, they can just try to end the game off the back of it.
And this is why I like the new Baron creep so much that got changed at the start of this season, or last season rather, is just that the fact that these AoE mages have a hard time clearing these minions, so you can actually snowball the game. Svenskeren going in!
Oh, he's gonna kick Nuke Duck out, and he's just so tanky, he's able to stay alive through all of this. Candy going a little bit low as well. Gets the wild growth on Svenskeren, burning away right now, but Rocket just don't have any extra damage. The Chaos Storm, they're sitting in it, and they don't care. Freddy going low, forced to flash. Jankos should be able to finish him off. The spear doesn't go where he needs. And Rala is down, but amazingly, every member of SK Gaming lived through that onslaught.
Poor
They're still pushing.
Jankos. SK members are zigzagging left and right, dodging spears constantly. Next one on Candy Panda though.
Oh, there's the shutdown they were looking for. Jankos will grab some revenge, but Freddy's already teleporting in. He's going to be on a gravity field, but he dashes in on Steve anyways. Gets the taunt off for just a second as he is going to get lasered down away from the turret. Fox and Enraid are still here to try and force the advantage. They can't quite get it done though. And Rocket will defend the turret, but it's looking dire for them.
What a messy fight. Props to Rocket though, they held on. Didn't lose Inhibitor Tower or Inhib against the Baron up team. Jankos eventually landing that one spear they needed. Straight onto Candy Panda, follows up. Use this flash though. There's some good jukes in that fight from SK Gaming too. We saw Svenskeren go up and down. Somehow managed to survive that. Freddy dodges it with the flash and then eventually dodges the spear in turn from Jankos too. And that's big. If you're trying to crawl back into this game, you're trying to land these crucial spears and people keep juking you, it almost feels insulting. It feels like, hey, I'm a better player than you. I predict where your skill set was going. Here we go for round 3.
Yeah, Nuke Duck's the one that's targeted. He's kicked right into Enraided, and Fox blown up. That's a big snake. As Svenskeren will take down Vander in all of the chaos as well. 2 members down. Rocket looking to try and Miracle defend, but Sven doesn't look to give them the chance. He goes a little far forward, though. Rally's around the side on the hunt pot, but Freddy is going to instantly taunt him, and now he's forced to run backwards right into the waiting arms of Candy Panda. And now Steve and Yankos are the only ones left standing to keep this game alive. SK Gaming, with a pack of minions at their back, are looking to shove in to end the game.
Yeah, and SK is gonna finally break open this base from Rocket. Took them a while. 4 dragons right now. They got a Baron. Gonna take this inhib. Will they go for the straight finish? Space just one more time.
But they don't even have to at this point. Now they're able to back away. There we go. Go ahead and pop the coin. And now it's less than a minute before drag. They can back away, they can shop. You can see Svenskeren already doing that. Clear the wave up top. They've got all the time in the world because Roccat has just consistently failed to pressure them this entire game.
SK looking a lot more relaxed in their player cams as well compared to Roccat. They're under pressure. And with this composition, it's so hard to find an opening because everything is so conditional. So many things need to go right. Let's watch that fight one more time. If Svenskeren connects, he has no hesitation to go in. Ward dashes, and I can flash. Nuketo's cleanse is already down, but even if he has 3 cleanses, he will never get out of that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how many you've got. The damage is just way too real at the end of the day. So, it's still going to keep on going for a minute as Sven just jumps in on that one. Rallis, he kind of gets baited. Oh, I can go ahead and take him out. Wait, there's a Freddy.
No, he has to commit to that fight while SK is seemingly doing 2 things at once. SK was pushing right there, and then they went for the fight. Rocket tried to see that as an opening, but eventually SK collapsed. They had enough shields to stay alive long enough.
But now Dragon's back up. This is going to be number 5 if SK are able to secure it.
Yeah, this is the panic play. Rocket will definitely engage here and try and stop that Dragon somehow, but they're stuck in a choke point.
Teleport in the back. They didn't have any wards. They weren't able to get into SK's jungle and place them.
Look at that zone control from the Cassiopeia poison.
Yeah,
both their carries are on the wrong side. They don't have the backup.
Yeah, Freddy is able to come in if he needs to, and he looks like he's going to be doing just that as Svenskeren is going to jump forward. There is the Petrifying Gaze from Fox to push them all back as Steve, Vander, and Rallis look to gang up on Candy Panda. The ROC will take him down, but a double kill goes over to Fox. Is it going to be enough for him to end this fight and end this game? Triple kill. Freddy and N-Rated are able to pick up the Sivir on the back, and Vander's going down. The quadra kill, and Fox and the rest of SK are gonna look to end.
Yeah, SK split up a little bit, but luckily for them, Rocket decided to use On the Hunt to go to the side where the tanks were and not the carries. Eventually the carries showed up to the fight, and boy did they carry. Triple quadra kill for Fox, and SK taking their 2nd victory.
Rocket should have checked for snakes in their booth, that is for sure. As it stands, they're going down 39 minutes into the game. SK Gaming are the winners, and that's 2 in a row.
That is 2 in a row.
Smiles on the faces, well-earned victory. Methodical over Rocket.
I wouldn't call it methodical just yet. I'd call it slow, and I feel they donated the victory a little bit by Rocket the same way Elements was. So
Alright.
It spells out some good things for SK Gaming. Don't want to be overly harsh here. Some progression. Svenskeren and Freddy yet again showed up big. They were the question marks coming in. You know, we need them to carry in addition to the other members of SK Gaming. But where SK makes statements, Rocket leave a lot of questions. Another game, passive, slow, lack of engage, no foresight, 1 step ahead.
And they continue the trend of just kind of letting it go a while. And, you know, against Elements, it was, they had a good early game, and then they just eased up on the pedal. Couldn't get anything done. You can see that expression, it says it all.
Yeah, this man right there, Yamato Cannon.
Same problems.
They'll have to go back to the drawing board, and we're getting closer to the halfway point in the split right now. Now 8 games been played, right?
About there, yeah. So it does leave a lot of questions for Rocket, but on the SK side, any news, any good news at all is something that's going to be very relieving to them. They find themselves after 6-game drought 2-0 on this week number 4.
And that's exactly what they needed. I mean, obviously, if you can go 2-0,
but I mean,
that's what they needed.
That's great. It's fantastic. I mean, you when you have such a rough patch, and then we can ask Cyanide and Deficio, of course, all day about what that's like. Maybe I can ask you too.
No, you shouldn't ask me that.
Okay, cool.
So focus on the game.
You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know, right?
No idea what you're talking about.
It's just, it's got to be a weight off your shoulders at that point.
Yeah, but you lift it off, but just for a bit. You know, you still look at the standings. And you're wondering, you know, why didn't we do this any sooner? You know, could we have done this any sooner? Where does the progression stop? Because yes, SK got 2 wins, but they had some gaping holes in their strategy right now still, and they could have gotten exploited because Rocket, you know, they were so far back that they allowed SK to comfortably figure out step by step what to do in the game without getting punished, you know. Every time they went for a play, there was no countermeasure from Rocket. However, they did the right things. Double threat composition with a lot of shields. Limited engage, but Svenskeren made it work. And yeah, props to him. First pick Lee Sin, said, Jankos, I'm challenging you Lee Sin here. You're forced on Nidalee. It's not going to work out. Didn't work out for me.
Proved very key, though. I mean, yeah, his Nidalee was nearly, or not nearly as comfortable as we've seen him on. And of course, with the top tier junglers banned away, that was a big area of focus. So by neutralizing that, by making sure that Steve never got rolling, they took the lane swap early on, and it just kind of set the pace that they wanted in the game.
But Nidalee has issues to get rolling if you don't have winning lanes. Same with Lee Sin. You want to win those lanes, and then you can aggressively invade, make those plays. And we saw it earlier in the game as well, where Svenskeren caught Jankos because his lanes had the pressure. He had the momentum. He had the first step. He could shoot first, and it snowballed from there.
Yeah, he was the Han Solo of that game. But for now, we're going to go ahead and send it over to the analyst desk. They're going to take a deeper dive into that game.
Thank you very much, guys. Well, very interesting to see from both sides. Crepo, I think rightfully so, was still harsh on SK Gaming. But on the other hand, I couldn't expect them to be completely methodically correct in this one. And I feel like they should take a lot from playing the way they did versus Rocket.
I think so too. I think if you actually look at SK, in terms of their picks and bans, in terms of their playstyle and their decision making, they have actually rolled the clock back, and they're finding a way to make it work this week. You know, yesterday SK were able to punish Unicorns of Love misplays. Today they were able to punish Rocket's passivity. But I think credit to SK for doing that. I also want to highlight both Svenskeren and Fox. Sven in both games yesterday and today stepped up. Fox's Cassiopeia in this game was actually very impressive and very aggressive. And these are the two players that were going, I feel like I can't carry. I feel like nothing's working. I feel like it's nothing. And now all of a sudden they've actually got some more confidence in their play and it pays off.
Yep, definitely. That's very good momentum from them carrying on into this one. You mentioned those two players. We saw the Lee Sin first pick coming out from SK, possibly taking it away from Jankos, but Svenskeren had to do something then. What did you make of the early game in that regard?
I think the early game was weird. Like, Rocket just utterly confused me in this game. Like, first of all, the Nidalee pick, I didn't really see it fitting. Maybe for sieging or something, but I think something tanky would have been a bit better, even though there were some jungler bans. And then the lane swap, like, I didn't understand. Why would you lane swap in that game when you're facing away and it's like, oh, lane's pretty weak on lane, let's freaking lane swap. It made no sense whatsoever to me. Maybe just terrible analyst.
And that was really just some small things that happened in the start that started really snowballing in favor of SK. First of all, that lane swap, which allowed the Vayne Lulu to take down the bottom lane tower, get a long lane where now suddenly you can start trading with the Sivir and you can get these one-on-ones very quickly, which is why we see people pick Vayne into Sivir because you beat her obviously in that case. So that made it very hard for Rallis and Vanna to do anything once they swap back to the 2v2 lane. Then, of course, Nukedog losing the mid lane as well, so suddenly all the pressure is gone. The Nidalee pick was here because there were three waves here of 3 lanes, that could push in SK. In the mid lane, the Victor can instantly clear the waves. Top lane, Nar's going to push down the Shen. Bottom lane, the Sivir was supposed to be able to push in the Vayne. So when you have 3 lanes pushing, you get in deep wards, and your jungler can then invade into the enemy jungle. You know, we can start getting some duels between Sven and Jankos. That couldn't happen because then they started losing lanes. They gave up tower in a lane swap. And that whole early game just collapsed and forced Rocket then to suddenly sit back and play super, super passive.
And I also think if you take a look at some of the players on Rocket's side, again, they're just underperforming. I think that was one of Nukedog's worst performances this split. He got soloed by Fox a couple of times. His positioning was questionable. He got caught by Svenskeren. And, you know, you touched on all the pressure Sven was applying. Yesterday, we were talking about how many buffs he was stealing away. It ended up being like 2/3 to SK. Wasn't quite as drastic in this game, but it was still in favor of SK, 50 to 60% of the buffs going to SK to steal, to control the jungles. It's just very smart play from SK, leading the way from Svenskeren.
And also just to go back on Rocket a bit more, because I feel like whenever we see Rocket play, there's just so many things we're saying, you guys should know better at the moment here. Their whole composition was made to run as a unit, 5 and to basically 5 versus 5.
Just a Sivir comp, man.
Just a Sivir comp. And then we have, on SK side, it's more split pushing, single out targets and so on. Rocket never got to a point where they grouped up and said, now we're going to try and force a team fight, because they just fell so far behind and did absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I feel like Rocket is like even more confused right now. It makes me think maybe Woolite was even the shot caller. Like, he's farming a lane. He's like, all right, Steve, you go top now. You Nukedog take the blue. Then we're going to go for Baron. And then he's, oh crap, I'm caught. The game is over.
That might have been a case. Well, we'll ask them next time they're on the desk. Before we look towards game 2, let's get some hard-hitting questions from you guys on Twitter. From @LondoLeo asks, Cyanide, you have to tell me your secret of that perfect-looking suit, and what's your opinion on the Fischio sweater?
This is actually RNA's suit. So
It's my shirt, by the way. This is my shirt. Just saying.
It's all true. It's all true. I'm a kleptomaniac, but that is a really nice sweater.
Right? I like it. Opinions?
Yeah, it's great. I just feel like we're jumping down the rabbit hole every time we get a tweet up. I like it. Living dangerously. Trevor?
I have nothing to add to
Nothing
this.
to add. It's time for us to step away for a moment, but don't touch that browser. We'll be right back as H2K face Giants right after this.
What are they screaming?
League of Legends.
I heard Leroy Jenkins.
No, it was like
Leroy
like left side is League of
Jenkins.
and the right side is like Legends.
Steve connect. Oh, goodbye, Steve. Oh, fantastic kick. Kick back in by Sven, but it doesn't matter. He's taken down by Rallis in the wrong direction, but it doesn't really matter as they're just all stalled out. Fox will throw down the petrifying gaze. Nuke Duck blows away by Fox. The ROC will take him down, but a double kill goes over to Fox. Is it going to be enough for him to end this fight and end this game? SK Gaming are the winners. That's 2 in a row.